This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And very happy to have with us Louise Tieman. She is the president and CEO of the World Trade Center in Tacoma, Washington. The website is WTCTA.org. And you can tweet her at WTC as in World Trade Center, Tacoma. And Louise, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
You wrote a piece for the News Tribune. I'm looking at it here. It's thenewstribune.com, an op-ed piece called "Washington and Tacoma Need the TPP." And I get it that Tacoma and Washington State are major participants in trade. You're on the West Coast there. There's a lot of stuff going to Asia, mostly raw materials, coal, paper products, things like that. A lot of things coming back from China, mostly manufactured goods, because that's where all the manufacturing is being done. But how is the TPP, which, its principal function is going to be to, for example, raise the cost of pharmaceuticals all around the world, how does that help us?
Well, I would not characterize the TPP as having its primary duty to raise the cost of pharmaceuticals. I mean, this is a comprehensive trade agreement that is trying to do a number of things. It does, it would say its predominant thing is to lower tariffs on goods both coming into this country as well as our exports.
Well, our tariffs coming into this country are already at, less than 2%. 1.4% is the average tariff. And I realize that, countries like, Brunei, for example, they've got, 22%, I think, tariffs on many of of the goods coming from the United States. But all the people in Brunei, if they all decided to buy all American, would represent a smaller economic pot than the city of Austin, Texas.
But there are many large markets, some of which are not very open. I'll pick on Vietnam for a moment. There's substantial tariffs against U.S. goods in Vietnam, and that does prohibit the export of our food products and manufactured products. It is a huge barrier.
But Vietnam has a VAT tax. They will simply use that VAT tax as a tariff against us the same way China, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, Germany, all the European countries, the same way that they all do. I mean, number one, you're not going to see any barriers to trade crumble. And number two, in Vietnam, you've got an average annual income of under $2,000. In fact, I think it's under $1,000 a year. Do you really think that Vietnamese are going to be rushing all over themselves to buy American cars?
Oh, it has. Cars, maybe not, but it has come up fast. And the change in Vietnam as we travel there in just the last few years is startling. And as the labor provisions, which is another aspect of the TPP, come into play, and the wages and other labor protections for a lot of women and children who are manufacturing in Vietnam, and hopefully that child rate goes way down, then they suddenly have more disposable income, and you have a rising ship in Vietnam, but in other countries as well.
But those so-called labor protections have never been enforced in any of these other trade deals. I mean, that in and of itself is one of the major problems. And secondly, Malaysia is one of the countries involved in this. In Malaysia, slavery is actually legal. And this does not stop that. I don't think that the treaty can do all things in all places. I don't know that that's a reasonable expectation, but it is a strong step in the right direction, including in Malaysia, and it exposes those Malaysian companies also to some of the advantages in having a better protected labor force. I appreciate that that's a little... I don't mean that to sound Pollyannish either. It's a difficult situation in some of those cases, but we know from NAFTA that we have lost millions of jobs and tens of thousands of factories as a direct consequence of NAFTA. We know from the Korean Free Trade Deal, this just came out last month, we know from the Korean Free Trade Deal, we've lost something on the order of between 500,000 and 1 million jobs and thousands of factories, just as a result of the Korean Free Trade Deal. Our deficit with Korea went from a relatively small amount of, less than $1 billion a year to several billions of dollars a year as a result of the Korean Free Trade Deal. We saw the same thing with the Colombian Free Trade Deal. Every single one of these free trade deals going all the way back to NAFTA has resulted in an increase in the American trade deficit, a decrease in wages and employment in the United States, and the abandonment or the shutting down of factories in the United States. What is different about TPP?
I do think that with regard to NAFTA that they U.S. negotiators and the fullness of time has shown what aspects of NAFTA were unproductive for us, and that every effort is made to correct those in future treaties. And I have actual members of businesses in my trade center who very specifically benefit from the Korean Free Trade Agreement. In these particular company case, the tariffs on the rolled steel that they used to make garage doors went down substantially. It allowed them to expand.
Wouldn't it be better if that rolled steel was made in America?
It depends. You're trading off some choices in pollution in those industries and in shipping costs as well, because the raw material is over there and not over here. So
no, it's actually not. My brother was a merchant seaman on Lake Superior. The iron ore that's going over there to make that rolled steel is coming from Michigan and Wisconsin.
Well,
we're shipping it through your ports.
My members absolutely benefited from that treaty, and there's new efforts underway in advance of Korea hosting the Winter Games coming up for additional exports.
No, I understand that. I understand that the companies in the United States that are selling garage doors, if they can buy cheaper raw materials from overseas, they're more profitable. But
they are employing local workers at above average wage
to install those garage doors. Right.
No, to manufacture those garage doors, and 30% of them are being exported to other countries. In this same door case, they are strong sellers of American-made garage doors in Australia. New Zealand has a very high tariff on garage doors, believe it or not, and that tariff goes to zero in TPP, and they are poised to enter that market, which has been waiting for them, because they can beat any garage door on quality, but they cannot beat it on price when there's a 30% tariff. And so when that tariff goes away, they're ready to go. And that will add employment in Tacoma, Washington, not in New Zealand. They're not setting up a factory in Australia to make these doors. This is all American-made. In fact, they wouldn't sell as well if they weren't American-made.
They're already, New Zealand is on the other side of the earth. You don't think that New Zealand is going to be buying garage doors from China or from Vietnam or from Malaysia?
They do currently, but they have their.
Why are they going to suddenly stop?
Because the quality difference is vast.
Well, we used to say that about Chinese stuff. We used to say, oh, that Chinese stuff, it's all junk. And now, look at your iPhone.
How
long does it take them to get up to speed on quality?
Well, I have another example from another member that does the RFID systems that get you in and out of secured parking spaces, whether it's at the airport or whatever. They make the RFID systems, but one of the things they've noticed is that the providers of the actual gates at the parking garages, that the gates come from China, and they're often of poor quality. They send an awful lot of them back, and it frustrates the contractor at that location.
So let's make them in the United States.
This American company is looking at starting to provide those gates and arms as a separate division in their operation, because they recognize that the quality here is better.
Right.
So these are opportunities for American companies, and all of that is exports, so to predominantly South and Central America.
You realize out of the nearly, well, we're out of time, and I don't want to end with me having the last word. Louise Tieman, thank you so much for dropping by today.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Sure. Louise is the president and CEO of the World Trade Center in Tacoma, Washington. The website is WTCTA.org, and you can tweet her at WTC Tacoma. And Louise's piece is, her most recent op-ed is in the News Tribune.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be right back with your calls. Stick around.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.